Hello everyone. So recently my friends and I were talking about how Gen Z has a weird stare. Now, before you get all defensive in the comments, hear me out. We were talking about how millennials are the weird ones, because we spend way too much time looking at our phones. And then we started to think, are we the weird ones? Or is it actually Gen Z that's the weird one? So we went to the mall to do some research. We wanted to see who was the weird one. As we entered the mall, we noticed a group of Gen Zers staring intensely at their phones. Their eyes were so locked on their phones that they didn't even notice the escalator they were walking up. My friend and I looked at each other and we thought, maybe it's not us, maybe it's them. We decided to follow them and see where they would go. We followed them into an empty store. It was a closed-down Claire's accessories store. We peeked through the window and saw the group take off their masks. One of the girls was wearing a face mask with the nose filter, and she took it off and put it on her phone. She turned it on, and the screen lit up her face. Then they all started recording something on their phones. They seemed to be recording a TikTok dance routine, but it wasn't any dance routine we had ever seen before. It was a really creepy dance. The girl in the mask put on her nose filter again, and then the whole group stared directly into their phones. If they were watching something really scary. We couldn't see what they were watching, but we could see their eyes were wide with terror. My friend and I decided that we should probably leave them alone. But as we turned to go, we saw one of the girls walk out of the store with a bloodied meat cleaver. Her eyes were wild and insane, and she was staring directly at me. I don't want to sound like a maniac, but it was like she was trying to kill me with her eyes. Then she dropped the meat cleaver and ran back into the store. Then I heard her muffled screams. I don't know what kind of TikTok dance involves a meat cleaver, but this one did. My friend and I decided to run away. We sprinted out of the mall into my car. As I was driving home, I couldn't stop thinking about the girl with the meat cleaver. Was she going to come out of the store and hack me to pieces? Was I going to make it home alive? Am I going to die? Am I going to die? Am I going to die? Then all of a sudden, the girl with the meat cleaver appeared in my rearview mirror. I slammed on the gas and turned to look for a way out. The girl just stood there staring at me, still smiling that insane smile. Then she took out her phone and started recording. She recorded for a couple seconds and then put her phone down. She took out the meat cleaver and raised it above her head. I turned to my left and I saw a fork in the road. I turned the wheel and crashed into the bushes. I hoped that we had finally lost her, but as I got out of the car, there she was standing right in front of me with her meat cleaver. I started screaming and ran away as fast as I could. I ran down the road and didn't stop until I got home. I haven't seen her since, but every night I hear her screams in my dreams. Sometimes I think that maybe it was just a dream. Maybe it really wasn't that deep. But then I look over and I see a meat cleaver under my bed. The year's 2099, and you are a detective in the Homicide Division of the Metropolitan Police Department in the city of New Alexandria. It's the biggest city in North America and one of the most densely populated places in the world. Over 50,000 people live in this city, most of them crammed into high-rise apartment complexes with names like Sky Palace and Cloud City. It's hot, humid, and the smell of stale waste permeates everywhere. You got a call come in from one of your informants? A body was found dumped behind the Stargate. Mark it on Jupiter's way. You arrive at the scene and find the corpse of a young woman lying face down in an abandoned lot. She's naked except for her shoes, one of which is not hers. As the coroner's van pulls up, another cop walks over to the body and flips it over. The woman's face is pale and gaunt. Her eyes are wide open and staring blankly into the sky. The sight of her corpse triggers a primal fear in you. The same fear that your hunter-gatherer ancestors must have felt when they first laid eyes upon a saber-toothed tiger or a pack of wolves. This is the face of death itself. This is what you would see if you looked into the abyss, and the abyss looked back into you. You look away and puke into the grass. When you were a rookie, this kind of thing didn't bother you. In fact, you were fascinated by it. But after 15 years on the force, you've seen enough dead bodies to last you a lifetime. Your partner, Detective Ramirez, kneels down beside the body. He's a young, ambitious, and eager officer who joined a force right after graduating from the police academy. He looks at you expectantly, waiting for you to do your part to make this tragedy make sense. But how can you explain what you just saw? How do you describe the What you're looking at here is a person who has died from fright. Whoever killed this woman did it so suddenly and unexpectedly that she never even had time to scream. Her eyes popped wide open and stared vacantly into the sky, as life ebbed out of her body and left her in a permanent state of shock. You've seen this look before? Dozens of times before? It's the same look that you get from those who die of fright. But there's something different about this look. Something that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end. You can't quite put your finger on it, but there's something deeply unsettling and strangely familiar about it. You know that look? You've seen that look before. It's the look that you get from people when you meet them for the first time. The look that everyone gives you when you walk into a room. It's the look that's been burned into your retinas for the past 30 years. It's the Gen Z stare. When you were a kid in the late 2000s, you used to think that this was a cool look. It was edgy. It was nihilistic. It was a rejection of the false dichotomy between good and evil. You used to think that it meant these kids were deep and misunderstood. Now you know the truth. They were always as vacant and soulless as the eyes of a dead fish. You look back at Detective Ramirez, His face is pale and he's sweating profusely. His eyes are wide with terror and his mouth is hanging open in a silent scream. He wants you to say something, anything, to alleviate the tension, but you can't. There's nothing to say. All you can do is stare back at him, back at the abyss, and hope that it doesn't pull you in. As the minutes tick by, you feel yourself being consumed by the abyss. You can't look away. You don't want to look away. The abyss beckons to you, promising you sweet release from the horrors of the waking world, but then just as suddenly as it started, it stops. The abyss recoils back into whatever dimension it came from, and you're left there in the cold, hard reality of the waking world. You blink a few times and then look back at Detective Ramirez. His face is still pale, but now you can see the beginnings of a smile on his lips. He looks at you and says, "It's okay, partner. It's just a dead girl. We see this kind of thing every day. It's just another day in paradise." And then he laughs, a hollow, mirthless laugh that echoes the laughter of the damned. You want to reach out and touch him, but your hand goes straight through his chest, as if he were a ghost. And then you realize that he is a ghost who haunts your nightmares. The summer I turned 14, I got a job at a water park. It was the perfect summer job. I got to hang out with my friends all day, and we made a ton of money. The pay wasn't bad either. I was making more than my parents ever did at that age. There were 4 of us who worked the wave pool. My best friend Jamie, her sister Becky, who was kind of a bitch, our supervisor, whose name I've forgotten because she was fired, and me. Our job was pretty simple. We just had to stand in the middle of the pool and make sure everyone was safe while the other 3 people operated the wave machine. Every hour on the dot, we had to blow a whistle and yell, 5 minutes, everybody out of the pool. Then we'd turn off the wave machine and the lifeguards would clear the pool. Once the coast was clear, we'd turn the machine back on, and the cycle would repeat itself, over and over, for the entire 8 hours we were scheduled. It was the last day of July, and it had been the busiest day of the summer. There were so many people at the water park that even after the 8 o'clock whistle blew, there were still tons of people in the wave pool. By the time the pool was cleared, it was 8:30 and we had to be clocked out by 9, so we only had 30 minutes to get ready for the night shift. As I was getting changed, I heard a commotion outside by the parking lot. I looked out and saw a bunch of cop cars surrounding Jamie's car. My heart sank. She was always breaking the rules. I just didn't think it would be this bad. I pulled on my sweatshirt and ran outside to see what was going on. When I got outside, one of the cops was talking to Jamie and she was crying. The second I got close enough, I heard the cop say, "Ma'am, your daughter has been accused of assault and trespassing. Do you know anything about this?" Jamie's mom shook her head, then turned to me and asked, "What happened?" I shrugged. I didn't know what happened either. All I knew was that Jamie was in big trouble. Jamie's mom pulled her into a hug and then turned to the officer and said, "I'm so sorry, she's just a kid. Please don't arrest her." The cop looked at Jamie, who was now sobbing uncontrollably, then back at her mom and said, "Ma'am, I understand that this is your daughter, but she did assault another one of our officers and she trespassed into an off-limit area. I have no choice but to arrest her." Jamie's mom started begging the cop, but he ignored her and put handcuffs on Jamie. Then he led her away to the cop car. After he put Jamie in the back seat, he turned to me and asked, "Do you know why she did this?" I thought about it for a second. She was probably just messing around. She doesn't know any better. He looked at me for a second, then turned and walked back to his car. Once he was in the car, Jamie's mom turned to me and screamed, "What did you do? Why did you let her do this?" I was shocked. "What are you talking about? I didn't do anything." She looked at me for a second, then turned and got into the passenger side of the car. As the cop drove away, I heard her say into her phone, "Get me a lawyer." I was scared. I didn't know what happened or why Jamie's mom was blaming me. I started walking home, but then I remembered I still had to clock out. So I turned around and went back to the water park. As I was walking through the door, Becky stopped me. "What happened to Jamie? Why isn't she here for her shift?" I shrugged. "She got arrested." Her eyes widened. "What for?" I explained what happened. Becky nodded understandingly. "Oh, that Jamie. She's always been a little weird, you know? Staring at people and stuff like that." I nodded. I knew what she was talking about. All the time Jamie would stare at people, but she always said she was looking for the ugliest person in the area, so she could give them $1. But now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure she was just trying to find someone to stare at and creep them out. Well, we stood there talking about Jamie for a few more minutes. Then I clocked out and headed home. When I got home, I told my parents everything that happened. They were mad that I didn't call them first, but they understood that Jamie was going through a rough patch. Her dad left her mom a year ago, and she's been acting out a lot lately. The next day at work, Becky and I were getting changed when she told me the most bizarre thing. "You know, it's kind of creepy how you two knew exactly what happened to Jamie before the cops even showed up. It's almost like you were expecting it." I shrugged it off and said, "What do you mean? I have no idea what happened." But deep down, I couldn't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, I did know what happened. Was I really just trying to find someone to give $1 to, or was I doing something a little bit more sinister without even knowing it?